Good morning, Bucknuts. It is Tuesday, November 14th, 2017. I am Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and Change. If it's Tuesday, it can mean only one thing. That's Duane Long. Duane, sunny and crisp here in the Gem City, sunny and crisp there in Columbus, ready to tackle the BM5.
Let's go.
We're going to start general. Duane, how do you explain the following? In Kinnick Stadium about, 10 days ago, Ohio State put forth one of the worst second half efforts, that we've seen out of the Buckeyes in several eons. They followed that up this past weekend by, in my opinion, they were the best team in college football. How do you explain that?
You know what? It's something that we are going to examine for years to come. How we could come from behind against the number 2 team in the country and win a football game and look good doing it. I mean, we did everything wrong in the first quarter of Penn State and then beat the number 2 team in the country. Then we come back against a team that had lost to Northwestern 2 weeks prior and laid the egg of the new century. I mean, that was as awful a performance as we have seen. It's worse than Clemson. It was worse than Michigan State a couple of years ago. It was really, I don't know. I mean, I'm 58 years old. I've been following Ohio State since I was about knee-high to a grasshopper, and I cannot remember us looking that bad, especially against such an ordinary opponent. And then we come back and do this and just, I mean, Michigan State was not great, but they went into this game 7-1, and we just took them apart. It actually could have been worse if the red zone offense had stayed the way it was earlier in the game when we scored. But I don't know. How do you explain it? I don't know how you can explain what that 3-game sequence right there. It just defies explanation.
Usually when teams are inconsistent, it's coaching or it's youth. I'm not sure the Buckeyes have either as an excuse here. Given that, do you think
they don't?
The rest,
they don't.
I mean,
come on, look. We got this coaching staff that probably the most prestigious, at least of the Urban Meyer era, and then you've got all these seniors. You've got a 4-year guy at quarterback. You've got a couple of very seasoned offensive linemen. It just, like you said, it's either coaching or inexperience that is you can look to for inconsistency, and we don't have it on the defensive side of the ball. Look at all the seniors, fourth year juniors that are on the defensive side of the ball. It defies explanation what happened against Iowa. It just does. It's just, I can't explain it.
I can just speak for myself here, and everybody has their own experience they go through with the Buckeyes each week, emotional and intense. This is coming up on a decade of my helping cover the team, and I can't remember a Buckeye team where I can't predict at all what they're going to do the next week. That said, I could make an argument that the first half that they played against Michigan State this past weekend was as dominant as they've been in the last decade against any opponent. Let's keep in mind, Michigan State is not a pushover. Michigan State is not afraid of Ohio State. I mean, go read some of the stuff that was written before the game. People were scared of Michigan State. Michigan State is like one of the few teams that's come into that field and kicked Ohio State's butt. The domination level of the defensive line to start the game, I think I'm a big Brian Lewerke fan, but they had him as a deer in headlights. So I guess it makes the rest of the season exciting on some level, knowing that Ohio State has an effort that I still think they can beat anybody in the country on any given day. So let's move on here to some specifics. A lot of talk about the linebackers. Obviously, Dante Booker and Jerome Baker did not play this past weekend. and the linebackers look better than they have in some time. Here's the question, and I do this more in the Bucknuts 90 or the Bucknuts Live on the weekend. To me, Jerome Baker is a mercurial cat. He was my favorite recruit in that class. I think of almost anybody on the Buckeyes, I'm just telling you from my experience covering the NFL, he fits the mold. He is what the NFL wants in a linebacker, talent-wise. By the same token, I don't know if I've followed a Buckeye where early in the game, each game, I can tell if Jerome has come or his alter ego is there who doesn't really enjoy football. He's an all-or-nothing guy. To me, this is my opinion, in order for the Buckeyes to get to where everyone wants them to go, and that would be like, Big Ten championship and contention for the playoff down the stretch, I think we need Jerome Baker, and I think we need Jerome Baker playing at a high level. There are a lot of people who disagree. There are a lot of people who probably want him benched. What's your vibe on Baker, and then maybe bleed that into the linebackers in general?
Well, it really is a matter of, now I want the Jerome Baker from last year back. If he's going to play like he has this year, I mean, the guy we have not even seen, it's not just he's not playing well. I don't see effort out of the guy. And if he's not going to give us that, then I don't want him on the field. If we can get the Jerome Baker back from last year, who's dynamic, who's a playmaker, who people are saying he's going to go in the first round of the draft, and people on the pro level are saying, yeah, you're right, he is. He's what we're looking for up here. He's an athletic guy. He's very fast. He's what the modern NFL needs, a guy who can run, who can pass defend. But we have not seen the same player this year. Nothing close to it, Dan. I mean, I cannot remember a play, a game that Baker has looked like the Baker of last year, not for a full game. So my answer to that question is, if you think in practice he's showing that kind of player, you put him in there. If he's not, then you leave him out. We don't need him in there. If he's not going to be giving us everything and coming up with plays, it's just not. Why? We played different linebackers this week for whatever reason. I still find the concussion thing very mysterious. I don't know about all that. I mean, you see they come off the worst game as a unit that they've had in I don't know how long, and two of them get sat out. I don't know about that. But, we saw some guys come in. We saw Malik Harrison making plays out there. Tough Borland comes into the lineup, and he's tough. He's playing like the Borland that, I didn't think he could be this good. He was really this good against Army. He's not that great in pass coverage. That's the problem. That's the only thing with him. So, those guys coming into the lineup, and Harrison had a great game, had a monster game. So if you can put playmakers in there and in for these guys that are not – Booker has not been getting it done. I mean, the only linebacker that should keep his starting role is Worley. I want to see some Baron Browning. Let's throw him in the mix. So, we've got some athletes. Even when you're looking at Baker and Booker, great athletes. But, they're not getting it done. So let's look at those number two guys. And what did we do? We did that this week, and what happened? We had a really outstanding, I would say the best performance by the linebackers all year. So, let's we got to get Baker back to playing the way he was. That's really the key. If he is, he needs to be on the field, absolutely. But I don't know what Baker's going to show up. So that's my take on the linebackers. Let's see some of these backups again, and some guys that are hungry and looking to get more playing time, and they're performing. And let's get let's get him on the field. Let's take a look at him.
Yeah. To me, Baker. Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I think Jerome Baker at his best is still the best linebacker on the team. This, to me, when people talk about coaching, this is where Urban Meyer earns his money. It is Urban's job to either do this or have one of his assistants get Baker back on track and productive. That's why they get paid these big bucks. You've got to somehow convince. The part about Baker that bothers me is he is playing poorly on the precipice of making so much money that it wigs me out a little bit. Most guys start to play hungrier when they can smell the green, and he's going to get. I mean, he's a pro guaranteed based on his traits, but if he were to get into the draft right now, I think he's a third round at best kid, and that's if you go do the math, Google what a first round pick gets and a third round pick gets. He's lost himself, generational wealth. So we shall see. Let's move on to the recruiting side very quickly. Obviously, quarterback is the story of the day, the week, the month, the year. Emory Jones, who knows where that guy's going to end up. The name that has recently popped up, Matthew Baldwin, a Colorado State commit out of Austin, Texas, Lake Travis High School, ironically the alma mater of Baker Mayfield and Garrett Gilbert and Todd Reesing, for those who tuned to the BH yesterday. What's your vibe on Baldwin, and maybe assess the quarterback situation, how you'd like to see it work out ultimately?
Well, this thing with Emory Jones is driving me batty. I go back to, I loved him last year when I saw him. I thought this is Braxton Miller's feet and just a much better arm. Then over the summer, I saw some film of him at right before the Elite 11, which he did not get invited to, and it puzzled me. And right after the announcement came that he was not included, they showed some film of him throwing the ball, and there's no pass rush, of course. There's nobody covering the receiver, and he was Joe Bosserman the ball. He's throwing it in the cheap seats. He's missing that badly with no pass rush and an uncovered receiver. And I tried to write it off at the time, but the more I went back to the film so many times, and I'm like, no wonder he got left out of the Elite 11. Then we see Jerome Williams, the kid who was committed to Kentucky. He's now decommitted. Then he's visiting here. And people are crystalballing him to Miami, but I'm saying, let's see what happens after he visits. That kid right there, his accuracy, his film just leaps out at you how accurate he is. And he can run. He can really run. I'm not going to say he's Emory Jones as a runner, but he's better than J.T. Barrett, who's a pretty good runner. So I'm really excited about the possibilities of Jerome Williams and this new kid, the kid from Texas. I believe that's the same school that produced Drew Brees too. I have to go back and check my.
It's same town. He went. Drew Brees went to Austin Westlake. These guys went to Austin Lake Travis, but yeah, they were rivals. Same area.
Okay. This kid, I just watched this film. Was it yesterday or the day before? And he's impressive. And people are wondering, well, he's down the charts a little bit. Well, this is his first year as a starter. That school produces quarterbacks that go on to play in college football, not Abilene Christian or somewhere. They go to schools that you know. So he looks very impressive. And you got the Martinez kid that's committed to Tennessee. He's in there too. And these guys all can stroke it. They can throw the football. So Emory Jones, Jerome Williams in particular, I love Jerome Williams more than I love Emory Jones. I really do. If I could swap that out, I'd definitely take that deal. I really would. It's not that I don't want Jones. It's if I could trade him for Williams. That's my thinking on it. And the other guys, this is not what's the quarterback we took a couple of years ago that
Stephen Collier.
Nobody won't. Yeah, it's not a Stephen Collier situation, Dan. He's not. These guys are so much better than Stephen Collier. It's not even. They don't even belong in the same conversation. But I would happily take one of them if Jones does this and he just keeps going to Alabama. And he went to the Auburn-Georgia game, well, that was just a great game. And, we can't really – maybe he just wanted to go watch a great football game from the sidelines. That could very well be, and that's something that we have to take into consideration. And it wasn't about going to another school. He just went to watch a game. But we'll see what happens. But I tell you right now, if Jerome Williams wants to commit, I would take him and let Emory Jones decide what he wants to do.
Very interesting. We will have some more skinny on this in the boarding house today, a little of the premium variety. Jerome Williams sounds like he is all but ticketed to Miami. They picked a good time to have a great performance with the guy in the house. That should be very interesting. We appreciate Duane stopping by. Make sure you keep it locked in here all day, Bucknutters. Have a good one.